They did it. Chiefs did it. Going to the Super Bowl. Another year. They've been to the Super Bowl 4 out of the last 5 seasons. I can't believe it. What a time to be a Chiefs fan. And perhaps the greatest quarterback of all time, the greatest player of all time, is a Kansas City Chief. And he's playing right now. How lucky are we as Chiefs fans? I cannot believe this run. So Mahomes' playoff dominance during his career has been unbelievable. He is 14-3 in the playoffs. That's a full regular season of games, and that record would get you the number 1 seed in whichever conference you're in. So he's playing at a top tier level versus the best teams, just dominating playoff teams. And they've got a chance to win their 3rd Super Bowl. Mahomes has a chance to win his 3rd Super Bowl in a couple weeks versus the San Francisco 49ers. I won't talk too much about that game. I'm going to save that for next week's video. Right now, I just want to bask in the moment that this Chiefs team has found themselves in. I cannot believe that they went on the road to win in Baltimore and also in Buffalo. 2 awesome road playoff victories. This is Gridiron Lines, your host, Gary McKenzie, RGR Football, a member of RGR Football. If you're new here, welcome aboard. Welcome to the video. Make sure you hit that like button if you like the content, and then subscribe if you have not done so already. We're trying to get to 30,000 subscribers, so we really appreciate everyone who joins on board. I like to say that RGR Football is the best Chiefs content on YouTube. And I'm not speaking about myself. I'm more or less talking about Ryan, Dan, and Seth. They're all amazing. I just play my little role here. But subscribe if you haven't done so already. And make sure you like the video so that way this information or these videos can get sent out to other Chiefs fans. So Mahomes is 14-3 in 17 playoff starts, has 4,802 passing yards, and a quarterback rating of 106.3. 39 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 67% completion percentage. Those numbers are an MVP season. If Patrick Mahomes had those numbers in 2023, he would be the MVP. People would be considering the MVP without question. The only reason he wasn't in the running for MVP this season was because he had too many turnovers. He threw too many interceptions in 2023. But once the playoffs hit, the Chiefs cleaned those turnover problems up. Mahomes cleaned those interceptions up. I don't want to really pat myself on the back, but I was saying, late in the season, week 15, 16, that the problems the Chiefs were seeing, the problems they were dealing with were mental problems. These were problems of discipline. They weren't problems of lack of talent or lack of decision-making, lack of good play calling. No, it was mental. It was being undisciplined. And that's why I had some belief that this Chiefs team could turn things around in the playoffs, because if it's a mental problem, if it's a focus problem, this team has shown in the past when the brightest lights are on, they come through, and they would just dial up their attention to detail up a notch once the playoffs hit, and that's exactly what they did. This is really unprecedented. You don't see teams in the NFL just, flip a switch once the playoffs start. This is a special Chiefs team that has the experience to do such a thing. And when we think about Patrick Mahomes' legacy and what this means for him, well, he already notched another thing off the list. And that is, can he win road playoff games? How good is Mahomes that he's been in the AFC Championship game five times heading into the season and had never played a single road playoff game? Just think about that for a second. It's just another mind-blowing stat from Mahomes. And then now he gets to his 6th AFC Championship game, has to do it on the road twice, and beats 2 teams that throughout the regular season just looked like they were better teams than the Chiefs. And get to the playoffs, doesn't matter. And why it doesn't matter? There's a three-headed monster in Kansas City right now. I guess four-headed, really. The first head of that monster is Patrick Mahomes. This player, this quarterback for the Chiefs refuses to lose. Refuses to lose. The second head of that monster is Andy Reid. Unbelievable offensive genius, perhaps the greatest coach of all time. We'll see how long he coaches for, but there's a good chance that, if he coaches as long as Bill Belichick or Pete Carroll have, that he could find himself at the top of the all-time win list, top of the all-time playoff win list. So the third head is Steve Spagnuolo. And I feel like Steve Spagnuolo is finally getting some roses this year after being somewhat of an underappreciated piece of this Chiefs team as a whole. The years where the Chiefs first won the Super Bowl with Mahomes, the defense wasn't that great, and it seemed more or less that the offense was carrying the team. Now it's the other way around. Now the defense has been carrying the team, and Spagnuolo has been a huge part of that. And one thing I saw floating around last week, over and over and over again, was the statement that, why didn't Baltimore run the ball more? Why didn't they run the ball more? They would have scored more points if they ran the ball more. Why didn't they run the ball more? Why did they pass so much? What were they doing? What were they thinking? And I want to tell everyone watching this video that if you actually took the time, which you may have, to look at the defensive looks that Spagnuolo was showing the Ravens in that game, his game plan was glaringly obvious. And that was, we're going to load the box, we're going to crash down with our safeties, and we're going to put our secondary, our two stud cornerbacks on an island versus your wide receivers. We're going to tell you that under no circumstances are we going to let you beat us running the ball. You're going to have to beat us with Lamar Jackson's arm. And the Ravens saw this. And whenever you have a great defensive coordinator, the best of the best defensive coordinators can dictate the way the football game goes. They can dictate what your offense does. And that's what Spagnuolo did. So for all the people saying, why didn't the Ravens run the ball more? They would have scored more points if they ran the ball. I'm actually going to say that there's a really good chance that the Ravens offense does even worse in the AFC Championship game if they ran the ball more. I don't think the assumption should be that they would have done better. And in fact, looking at the way Spagnuolo's lining up the defense in that game, I think the opposite is true. I think if they ran the ball more in that game, they would have done even worse offensively. So the Chiefs defense went into Baltimore and dominated one of the best offenses in the league. The Ravens were winning by an average of double digits versus the best teams they saw, versus the playoff teams they saw in 2023. And the Chiefs went into Baltimore, won the turnover differential 3-0. Only the third time all year they had won the turnover differential in 19 games now? 18, 20 games maybe? 3 times they've won the turnover differential, and they picked the good time to do it in Baltimore. And Baltimore, on the other hand, had only lost the turnover battle 4 times going into that game. They had done a great job taking care of the ball. So you could say a couple things about Baltimore in that game. They didn't play their best game. They choked it away. They choked. There's no other way to say it. But the Chiefs also played a well-rounded game without many mistakes. They were very disciplined, and that's how they won the game. The fourth head that I mentioned in there is Travis Kelce, but he's kind of paired up with the offense with Mahomes and Andy Reid. But back to the Chiefs playing a well-disciplined game with very few mistakes. I want to say that around the Cincinnati Bengals game, the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and the offense figured something out. That's whenever I noticed that Patrick Mahomes was no longer trying to play hero ball. He was throwing the ball out of bounds when he didn't have a look. The interceptions started to go away. The mistakes on offense started to go away. And the Chiefs needed to understand that their identity was as a defensive football team. And a defensive football team cannot be giving their opponent short fields. And that's what the Chiefs stopped doing. So all up until that Cincinnati Bengals game, the Chiefs were giving up short fields, turnovers on their side of the field all the time. And I have to wonder if the Chiefs' defense had forced as many turnovers and had won the turnover differential like the Baltimore Ravens did, just how low their points per game total would be. There's no doubt in my mind if the Chiefs had a positive turnover differential in 2023, they would have had the best points per game defense in the NFL. And we saw how that defense plays, or how that defense can play this postseason. Whenever the Chiefs' offense takes care of the ball. And this is something I knew Patrick Mahomes had to figure out. So Mahomes had to figure out how to win this way. With good defense, ball control style offense, and not making mistakes. If you remember, I talked about how Mahomes had never really had a team like this. He had never really had a team with a great defense. It had always been, hey, Patrick, I'm sorry, but defense doesn't have it this year. You're going to have to score 40 points if you want to win this game. That's how it was in college for him. And that's how it was for a lot of the start of his NFL career. So we have watched this player win and learn how to win in so many different ways. In so many different ways. He's learned how to win the game in shootouts when he first came into the league. Then the league adjusted. NFL defenses adjusted. They took away the deep shot. He had to learn how to win by matriculating the ball down the field. Then his offense wasn't as good as it had been in years past. NFL defenses continue to figure the Chiefs out. And so then he had to learn how to win with a defensive ball control style offense. And what do you know? He's in the Super Bowl again, and he's done it again. In my opinion, Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback to ever play the game of football. And I know that might be disrespectful to Tom Brady, but Tom Brady, by the time he was 30, didn't have quite as many accolades as Patrick Mahomes does now that he's 28, especially if Mahomes wins the Super Bowl this year. So I think that Tom Brady will always be admired, and look, you can call him the GOAT if you want to because of how many Super Bowls he's won. But from the eye test, the many different ways that Mahomes has won games, his playoff record, Mahomes is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen. And how lucky are we as Chiefs fans that he plays for the team that we root for? Sometimes I just think about that and it blows my mind. I mean, I just can't believe after so many years of watching terrible quarterbacks for Kansas City, being a lifelong Chiefs fan, and somehow the Chiefs have the greatest player that's ever touched an NFL field. I mean, just enjoy it. Make sure you all enjoy it. We'll cover the 49ers next week, but like I said, I just wanted to bask in the moment The Chiefs making another Super Bowl run in a year where they should not have even been in it, at least on paper. And that's what the greats do. That's what Tom Brady did. Every year, every once in a while, whenever no one thinks you should get in there, you sneak one. And that's how you get to 7 Super Bowls. So hopefully Patrick Mahomes can win number 3. I think that a lot of things are going in the Chiefs' favor in this game, and we'll talk about that next week. But that's it. So take a moment in the comments if you want to, just to say how awesome this is, how awesome it is that we're here in this situation. And with that, this is Gary signing out. You'll have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll be ready for the Super Bowl next week.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more, and subscribe to RGR Football.